Hey everybody, welcome back to Sidebar Social. I'm Dana Stewart.
And I'm Jennifer Grinke. And today we're going to be talking about safety and how to keep you safe during your case. There's often situations that can arise during your divorce or during any type of legal case where we need to bring in a third party.
Yeah, so I'm happy to welcome to the podcast a very good friend of mine. I could call you a boss as well. I've been an employee for you. His name's Erik Hicks. He is the owner and chief instructor at Krav Maga Dallas. Erik, welcome to the show, sir. I think I need to say too, you're a third-degree black belt in Krav Maga, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and just an all-around good guy to know. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into this first. So,
Can I come like the joke at the office?
oh yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so Dana, he's very regimented. He has his meals. He also is very regimented with his workouts and what he does with you. And so the joke at the office, anytime he's going, we're like, "Are you going to karate again? Like, what belt are you on? Like, when are you getting to karate? Like, when are you going to reach like the black belt?"
That's the running joke that
Yeah.
I'm a karate practitioner.
I hear the
So-
same things.
Yeah.
I work
Okay.
hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
What do you do? What
Well,
is Krav Maga?
Yeah, so it's Krav Maga. It's loosely translated contact combat. Originally started with the Israeli military. Our military has adopted many of the principles. So if you see Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, they're all doing some variation of Krav Maga. Even our government agents, Secret Service, FBI, there's some variation of Krav Maga. It's a mixed martial art that is used for protection. That's simply put.
yeah, and what I like about Krav Maga is that the ability to take somebody who maybe isn't the biggest person, the strongest person, and we can train them like we've done with our students to teach them to defend themselves in all kinds of situations. And so that's why we wanted to have you on today, because we deal a lot with
Mhm.
cases that have domestic violence, some level of abuse, child abuse, spousal abuse, things like that. And I have sent clients to the Krav school to try to get training, but we feel there's a lack of knowledge, generally speaking, with just the public about different things they can do to try to protect themselves. And so that's where we want to bring you in
Sure.
to help try to educate our audience on some basics.
Yeah. Listen, we like to say that Krav Maga is for everyone, big and tall, short and small. We're not a state of Spartans. It's people from every walk of life. And it's all about understanding what you can do, taking advantage of the situation. And quite honestly, people are looking for victims. We make you not a victim. And that's as simply as I can say it. So, again, Krav Maga is a mixed style. There's a variety of things, but it's about being prepared probably more than anything else. Being aware of your surroundings, avoiding certain times of the day, certain situations, and then, of course, taking action when action is called for. The worst thing that can happen is someone freezes. They don't know what to do, they don't know how to act, and they freeze, and that's when bad things happen.
So, Eric, I've had clients that we've sent to get Krav Maga training because they are in a bad spot. Let's talk just kind of from the top. Let's give the audience kind of an understanding. There are many people who don't understand that domestic violence is oftentimes a gradual buildup, right? It's not just the relationship begins and there's immediate abuse. What have you seen as an expert in this field with students you've worked with when it comes to what domestic violence looks like?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, there's the physical. That's the obvious, but the emotional and the psychological is often where it starts. Things from words being used that are unkind, doing things that are just out of the ordinary. What's their pattern? So what we have people do is they start looking for a change in behavior. Is there a certain time of day, a certain time of the week, things that they can look for, and then try to, if possible, de-escalate those types of situations.
And when you talk about de-escalation, like what are some examples or methods?
Certainly words, right? Understanding what the trigger words are, avoiding those. Delays. We're getting ready to go somewhere. I'm notorious for being late. I'm trying to avoid being late to stop those arguments from happening in the first place. De-escalation in terms of giving the appearance of compliance, but keeping boundaries in place. So here's a good example. We're going out. You can see that the conversation is starting to take a turn for the worst. There's nothing wrong with simply saying, I'm not going, because now I want you to be able to set those boundaries and know where my boundary ends, and they're now going to cross that line. Setting those clear boundaries are a key in making sure that it doesn't go to the next level. So it doesn't go from verbal to physical.
And do you agree, and I don't know, Jen, from the female
Yeah.
perspective, do you think there is a society point of view that women are not supposed to speak up, are not supposed to be vocal? Maybe it's different with you. You were raised by a cop, but
So it's very hard.
yeah, but for most women, I don't know, I feel like the students we've worked with, and even our clients, some of them are afraid to use their voice. They're afraid to speak up. So how do you address that? How do you help empower somebody?
Yeah, that is our first weapon, is using your voice, making sure that they feel comfortable saying the word, a simple word, no. This is not going to happen. I'm not going to do certain things. Giving them that empowerment to use their voice is huge in stopping the escalation of the violence, whether it be emotional or physical. So, yes.
Eric, can setting the boundaries that you're talking about actually trigger the abuser?
It certainly can. It has to be done in a way that is not aggressive, obviously, and not inflammatory. But again, setting boundaries becomes very, very important. The idea that you're the victim implies that this person is looking at you because they know, they believe that this is going to be easy. What we're trying to do is make it as difficult for them as possible to move to that next level. So yes, it could trigger an episode, but I would not say that they should give up that boundary or not use their voice, because at some point that voice is going to become very, very important in their defense.
So let's talk, Eric, help educate the audience on the 3 A's, right? So something we get into when we're teaching students. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the 3 A's, Dana, they're awareness, avoidance, and then action. The reality is that action is the last course. We don't want to use action. Being aware of your surroundings. For example, you drive in your car. Clearly, you look out the windshield, but we often check the side view mirrors. We check the rear view mirror. You should be aware of what's going on around you at all times so that you can avoid a potential accident. Likewise, in the situation, a domestic violence situation, I need to be aware of my surroundings, their personal behaviors. Are they getting agitated? Things like that. What's their body position, their body language? The avoidance. I don't want to have the conversation immediately after a 6-pack of beer,
Right.
either myself or them, right? Avoiding the conversations at specific times. Is it early in the morning before they have their coffee? Maybe not the best time to have those conversations. And then the action that we talked about. I think most of us know the phrase fight or flight. But what we don't talk about is that phase that's in the middle, the freeze or fawning. And that's where we want to avoid. Whether you're going to fight or whether you're going to flee, it's an action. You have to take action and not be paralyzed by the situation.
And I think that's where Krav Maga, and especially the training, at your school, is so amazing. Like, we've literally seen students who, when we do stress drills, early on, they freeze. They don't know what to do. And then over time, they gain this confidence, not only with the skills, but just being able to know that they actually can take action, and they learn to work through that freeze. So, I mean, would you agree that the freezing is something that we can teach people to work through?
100%. I don't know that you ever get rid of the freeze entirely. Trained professionals, military personnel, government personnel, they still have a degree of hesitation, but it's greatly reduced. And so what we're trying to get people to do is to take action. Whatever that action is going to be, seize it and then follow through with it. Oftentimes we see people need that permission to take action. In their minds, they know that they should do something, but because of the relationship over years or decades, they have been taught that they're not allowed to take that
Right.
action. It's a little bit of reprogramming, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like for me, it's more like I'm fine to take action, but what action do I take, especially if the person attacking me is twice my size?
Sure. Again, that's where the action comes in with learning a self-defense like Krav Maga. It starts at the basics, the fundamentals, obviously, and then moving on. But the reality is understanding the body positioning, body language, what to look for. We call them pre-fight indicators. even if there's not physical violence, someone's brow starts to furrow, their body tense. There's things that you can look for that you now have the decision. Do I try to de-escalate this situation, or do I need to be prepared for action? And those are some of the things that we get people to identify early on in the process.
Follow us and join the conversation on Instagram and YouTube at Sidebar Social. Erik, you were talking about taking action, and I'm thinking physical, but sometimes that action can actually be filing divorce, which can set off the other side. How can we protect people in those situations, both through Krav Maga and like the work that we do?
Yeah, I certainly understand that action could actually escalate the behavior, or even initiate behavior that never existed before.
Yeah.
Again, that's part of what we would do, is help them to understand, or what to look for when those things start to happen. A good example that I give people is home safety. For example, if you park in a garage, let's say, uh, things that you can take action, small things. When you leave in the morning, do you start your car before or after the garage door goes up? We had several students who have come to us because of that. They were attacked in their own garage because they're not thinking about it. They feel safe at home. The garage goes up. They get into their car. The assailant walks in and assaults them in their own garage. Little things like that. Likewise, on the way home, once they come into the garage, the car remains running. The garage door goes down before you exit your vehicle. So little things like that.
And even
Good advice.
to piggyback on that, once you get in your vehicle, lock the damn door. How many people leave the door open all the time? You know, my mom almost got carjacked actually, because she's a real estate agent. You know, my mom's kind of crazy, right? In a fun way, but was looking at her phone to figure out the next house she was going to. Her door's open. She's just sitting there in a Mercedes in a parking lot, and somebody came up and tried to carjack her. I mean, fortunately, I've worked with her a little bit, and she has got a gun, and she got out of it okay, but that just piggybacks off what you're talking about, those small steps you can take. But I want to get into something so we have a few mutual clients. There's one lady in particular I'm thinking of who dealing with now an ex-husband who has anger issues, and so she's divorced him, but she's still connected because they have a kid together. And this particular kid, pretty high level athlete, and so they see each other at sporting events, at possession exchanges. Can you give a little bit of insight or tips to those people who still have to interact with the abuser on a daily or weekly basis?
Sure. So let's talk about the sporting events. Obviously, be cordial, have a nice conversation, but avoiding the small talk, which could lead to an escalation or a topic that is inflammatory. Um, they should have a protocol, some sort of a system to drop off and receive the child. That this is our goodbye. It's not going to be prolonged. I know exactly what needs to be exchanged: sports equipment, iPad, computer, those sorts of things. So there's never an opportunity for the ex to get angry because they have to wait for additional things to be brought from the car.
Got it.
Yeah, have a protocol.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually really good advice. I mean, I feel like there are many anecdotal stories of people that are in some sort of domestic violence situation, but do you know any statistics or any kind of the actual figures on how common this is?
Uh, It's too common, unfortunately. 50% of women who are murdered, it's typically done by a domestic partner or an intimate partner. So 50% of the homicides are executed by somebody that they know
Wow.
in a relationship.
That's a crazy statistic. And often we see that in our own cases. And so, for example, if you have a husband and wife and they're both at a heated courtroom or a heated mediation, I mean, are there any tips that you can give them to kind of make sure that everyone remains safety after they're done with the courtroom or the mediation?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the three A's: avoidance, awareness. The avoidance is, don't end up in situations or locations where that violence can be enacted. Right? Make sure that you're out with someone. Let people know your location. There's apps out there that are very, very useful where they have a group of people that know your whereabouts at all time. We also talked about the de-escalation. If you know it's already a situation where they're angry because of the ruling in the court that day, avoid those situations where you're going to be left one-on-one with them in a situation where it might become physical.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think on the avoidance too, we see this a lot. People leave court, somebody's mad, oftentimes the abuser, then they start reaching out through text messages, phone calls, and it's just nonstop, right? Incessant text, like really inflammatory stuff. So what's your advice to the person receiving those in that situation?
This falls into your area, but I'd say record everything. If it's going to be a face-to-face, I would have my phone in hand, recorder on if possible, if it's appropriate, and then making sure that all the changes in behavior, the words, the text, the verbal accusations are recorded. I would also make sure that I'm in a position where I know where the exit is. I would position myself in a way that I'm not reliant on that other person to have to go through them to get out. I would make sure that it's a public place if at all possible. Not meeting in a park, not meeting somewhere where it's isolated. And even in your own home, if possible, that person's not in the house. They remain outside the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of another thing that we use in this situation is a co-parenting app called Our Family Wizard. And so that's something where they can talk through the app, the court can log on, look at the communication, and they also have something I think would be helpful with the de-escalation. It's called tone meter. And so that can help change the tone of the conversation if somebody writes something and it might set the other person off.
Yeah, the
So,
tone meter tells you like if you're
yeah,
giving
a
an
little too
inflammatory
passive
statement.
aggressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We could use that in
Yeah.
daily life, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah,
was like,
yep.
should I put that on my phone?
Okay, so we're talking about avoidance, awareness. When it comes to the action part, obviously people can come to Krav Maga Dallas and they can take lessons, they can train to learn how to defend themselves. What are other things? I'd like to get your insight on pepper spray, tasers, firearms. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So we'll start at the least violent, right? Alarms, personal or body alarms, I think are great. They're loud, and in most cases, abusers don't want the attention. They want to be able to harass their victims in their own terms or in their own way. So alarms are very loud. They attract attention. I think those are great. Other apps, I think it's Noonlight is another one where it is an app that keeps track of your surroundings. There's another one that we recommend that's whengeorgiasmiles.org. It simulates or mimics a news app on your phone. So if your phone is being monitored by the abuser, they won't know that it's a personal safety app. It looks like a news outlet.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good one. But then as you go up, pepper spray, OC spray, while they can be useful, I personally don't recommend it only because they only work at a certain distance. So now that person is really close. And if there's any wind or change in the wind, they could actually spray back on you. They are better than nothing, but they're not something that I recommend. And then firearms. You and I both have worked many times together on firearms. I think firearms are certainly a useful tool, but the person has to be in the right headspace to use it, right? If you have a gun, you have to be willing to use it. And if you pull it, you absolutely have to be willing to use it. So before a firearm is purchased, I say they need to get the requisite training,
Yeah.
both for shooting, but also to have the right mindset.
Yeah, and I guess a shameless plug here. If people are looking at getting training, they can come train with Erik and myself and learn Krav Maga, learn firearms. We do the seminars at the school, so
Absolutely.
we can definitely help them out and empower them there. But I think the message there is you just got to do something, right? You've got to actually enact this as a daily part of your life, the awareness. It doesn't mean you have to be paranoid. You just need to know what's out there and make it a daily part of your life. Would you agree with that?
100%. I think the hardest thing for people to do is to see this person in a different light, depending on how long the marriage has lasted. And often cases, there was no violence before. And as you said, Jen, the violence only started after the divorce was filed. So it's hard for them to see this person as the bad person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the mental aspect is the key. You have to be able to see this person for who they are and what they are, and then be able to take the action, whether it be violence itself or not.
To learn more about today's guest, Erik Hicks, check out his website, KravMagaDallas.com. That's KravMaga Dallas.com. He's also on Instagram under the same handle, at Krav Maga Dallas.
Erik, I think the work you do is so important because it does happen more often than we think. 1 in 4 men and 1 in 3 women often are assaulted by a partner that they have an intimate relationship with.
Yeah, I mean, that's a crazy statistic. But
Yeah.
then what I think what we haven't touched on right now is what about the children? I mean, you know this, like I grew up in a house with domestic violence and abuse that I went through. And we've had a mutual client who had children that had been suffering at the hands of their father. And those kids came to Krav Maga, and I would say that they gained a lot of confidence. Would you agree?
100%. Oftentimes we see people who come in who are broken, or at least have the idea that aren't worthy. And then in a very short period of time, we see them gain the confidence to stand up to either their abusers or just flourish in life in general. And so the children that you're referring to, absolutely, they came in shy and left empowered. And that's a great feeling to see that happen.
And empowered is a great way to explain it
Yeah.
too. Yeah. And so one other story, we had a different student that we worked with who a professional and a adult lady, and had a situation at a work conference. Do you remember this lady? Yeah. Can you speak a little bit about that story? Because I think it speaks to teaching her how to stand up for herself and what she would have gone through had she not trained Krav Maga.
Yeah, the story itself is amazing. She was at a conference, as Dana said, in a hotel, and went to go to the restroom. It's a long walk down a very dark and desolate corridor, and someone attacked her in the hotel.
Wow.
And she actually used the skills that she learned while training with us to defend herself, enough that she was able to incapacitate him, call the authorities, and have him arrested. And while that doesn't happen all the time, we have stories that are like that, and even some that they're even more extensive, where people have been able to defend themselves, small people like yourself,
To come to class.
defending against bigger, stronger, more aggressive attackers, and then be able to make it out relatively unscathed.
How do you feel knowing that this work that you do, it touches lives? I've seen it. I know you've seen it for 20 years or more now. What's the reward for you?
It's hard to put into words, quite honestly. Again, you see someone who comes in who at various stages of their life are in a position where they've been abused either physically or emotionally, um, and then don't have the worth, the self-worth, and then to see them very quickly turn that around, and then go out and they become our greatest advocates because they tell other people about what this has done for them, not just to stop the abuse, but how they've been able to flourish in their lives at work, and other areas of their life.
Yeah.
It's a very rewarding experience.
All right, Eric. So obviously, the more people train Krav Maga, the more proficient they're going to be. But there is something I want the audience to take away from this about even just one seminar can change their life. And I'd like you to talk about that student we had who came to the women's only seminar and what happened just a few days after that.
Yeah, it ended up in such an amazing way, but it could have ended terribly. She did one seminar. It was a 3-hour seminar, and she went on a date. She did everything right. We talked about the 3 A's. She was aware. She avoided. She went on a date. It was in the middle of the day. They went to a park. What bad thing could happen at a park in the middle of the day? Apparently, this guy was a predator. He had an idea of what he wanted to do. Hand over the mouth so she couldn't scream. Try to pull her into the bushes. And she defended herself exactly the way we had practiced it, literally 3 days earlier. Without going into too much detail, she ended up defending herself. The guy came back a second time. She threw a strike to his nose. His hand goes up. She kicks him in the groin. He bends over, and she takes him down. She runs off. She finds a family, a father, mother, and a baby in a stroller. Says, "Hey, a guy just attacked me." The husband starts to take off to go defend her, and she said, "No, no, I've already taken care of it. I just need you to call the police. And they got him. They found him in the bushes. And it was an amazing story. She comes back to our women's seminar every year to tell her story because only a 3-hour seminar could have, or actually did save the worst day of her life. And
Yeah.
it's a great story. So thank you.
Yeah, it's
It's a
absolutely
great story.
amazing. And you think like what change in her life would have been had she never taken that seminar?
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And I guess to kind of put a point on it, she thought she was safe because of the time of day, in the middle of the day at a park. She also knew this person because they worked together. They work together. And so, again, most of the time, our guard is down because we feel comfortable at home or at work. That's when we should be the most on guard. We should be aware of our surroundings and not
Yeah.
have what we call mental autopilot.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
false sense of security.
100%.
Well, Eric, we truly appreciate all the work you've done with clients that we've sent to you and just all the work you're doing for the community and for everybody out there, keeping everybody safe.
Likewise, I really appreciate what you guys do. The care that you take with your clients. It's not just about the case and the division of the assets. It's a holistic approach for the family. So thank you for what you do and making sure that the people are safe as well.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on, Eric. Appreciate you as a friend and a training partner. So I think that's everything. All right, I'm Dana Stewart.
And I'm Jennifer Grinke, and we'll see you next time.